away. Not that they're going to vanish, but you're finally going to have an Africa where progress starts to overshadow its challenges. And in the past, that really hasn't been the narrative at all, partly because there have been a lot of negative things in Africa, but partly because there has been a skewed way, let's face it, there has been a skewed way to cover Africa for the last 20 to 30 years.
Yeah. So, but I think that on the broadband, yes, it does only cover 20% in some countries, just the same way that electricity varies. So, for example, Ghana covers 80% of its population with electricity. Uganda is less than 10%. Demand's growing at 15% a year. Then you have situations like power in Nigeria can run anywhere from, I don't know, 27 cents a kilowatt hour up to, depending on the price of diesel, into the 40s and 50s per kilowatt hour, which is, 8 times what Americans pay. In Ethiopia, power is 4 cents a kilowatt hour and the cheapest in the world. So you have this variation by country that changes these kind of realities. And you do have a lot of countries that their economic growth and their economies are much less fragile than they used to be. And what do I mean by that? I mean a reduced dependence on commodities. So a lot of the countries, including Nigeria, have found that their GDP growth is coming from other areas, not just oil and extractives. And you have that ability to reduce the commodity dependence limits some of the fluctuations that the economy saw before. Additional growth from one neighbor spills over to the other, and as integration and trade deepens, those ties grow. So, research out of Oxford has shown that if your neighbor grows by 1%, you grow by 0.3 to 0.4%. So that's a serious, significant positive spillover. So the more you trade, and the deeper those relationships are building, and right now inter-African trade's increased by 22% year on year. Those kind of positive spillovers.
The inter-African trade is particularly interesting.
And Quentin, could I just add one more thing, and it'll turn into a question for Chris. A lot of the skepticism, we actually have been able to turn it into an upside. And this comes from the Africa Leaders Summit, where some of the presidents and some of the leaders there said, if we've had all this progress without electricity, right, with all these structural challenges, imagine how much further Africa's entrepreneurs and economies could surge. So Chris, for example, for your business, and you forged into this business that requires these very particular things. I mean, if Nigeria improved its roads, or had basic, even incremental improvements in roads, electricity, and bandwidth, I mean, what would that mean for Mall for Africa?
Never mind Nigeria, what about California?
It would be substantially significant. I couldn't even quantify that. It would be